Stigma with mental health, not for me. Hopelessness and helplessness, yes, that's me. 1 in 5 American adults suffer from some kind of mental illness. 1 in 25 American adults suffer from a severe mental illness. Things like schizophrenia, dark, depression-ridden PTSD, schizophrenia, and much, much worse. I'm bipolar 2, type 2. It's a lesser form of the disorder. I don't get manic. I don't have mania. I don't have like sex rampages, or I don't spend my time at the casino gambling my savings away. I know that sounds like fun shit. I kind of wish I had that stuff, but then I'd be broke. I do get hypomania. It's a lesser form of all that stuff. You're actually seeing it right now. How does it look? Does it look good? Good. I get creative bursts of energy. I'll talk really fast. I would talk with my hands if not for having the clicker and the microphone here. I do get the depression part of bipolar really bad. I get anxiety. I get some OCD. And if this is going to make you leave, now is the time. I get suicidal thoughts. That's not funny to laugh at, sir. It's not curable. How fun is that? It is very treatable, and we're going to talk about that. It's apocryphal. You can give me the credit for it, though. Shakespeare, Picasso is what you'll find if you Google it. They say the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give that gift away. I hope my gift here today is to empower you and your loved ones to talk about mental health without stigma. Let's jump back into the early 2000s. This is a good-ass life, straight off my MySpace page. It was the early 2000s. I was living and working in Orlando. My radio career was going exactly where I wanted it to go. I was doing a morning show down there. Orlando, great place to live and vacation and all that. Morning show, great music, got to interview cool artists. My hours, I was at the pool by 11 a.m. The pool, took a nap there, went to the gym. It was a wonderful life. My career trajectory was right where I needed it to be. On the weekends, I knew a guy named DJ Jake. He was essentially, and we all had this friend, he was the social mayor of Orlando. I would DJ and host clubs and parties with him on Friday and Saturday nights. I would drink for free, do the DJing thing, hang out and hook up with really good-looking people. I mean, it's good work for a 20-something, and I was able to have it. And here's where it gets scary. There would be some Friday or Saturday nights, and again, I'm 20-something at this point, early 20s, and I would call Jake up and say, I don't think I can make it tonight. And he'd be totally understanding. I didn't understand it, but there was something shackling me from the inside as to why it wasn't shyness or introversion. I couldn't go, and he was totally understanding of that. We'll jump ahead a little bit, and we'll go talk about my interweb MD, which, whether you like Star Trek or Star Wars, was on hyperdrive or warp speed when I was a little bit older, my mid-20s, living and working in Saginaw. I enjoyed working there with the people, made some lifelong friendships. Living in Saginaw, we got it really good here where we're at. I would have these strange bouts of questions like, did my social and sexual decisions in my recent past, well, did that wreck my liver? Or, when it got really bad, did I perhaps have the as yet unidentified STD, cancer, AIDS hybrid? I hadn't been to the dentist in like 5 years, so I just assumed my teeth would begin to fall out one by one by one. And mind you, there were no symptoms. This all culminated, this medical drama that puts that show with Ellen Pompey to shame, with a real ailment. Something in my chest here. Anytime I would ingest anything, mostly liquids, it would feel like, it would make Pompeii look like a match was flickering out. And I just assumed it was kind of like the first of many heart attacks, or heart problems anyway. This is all up here. I called my dad, who is my rock with things, and I was totally panicked, and my dad still is my rock, and I basically alluded to having a heart attack. And my dad's like, hold on a second, like any dad would say, how long has this been going on? And I'm like, 2 weeks. He's like, well, okay, well, congratulations, you're having the longest heart attack in human history. Turns out it was like acid reflux, and as you might have guessed where this is all going, some volcanic levels of anxiety. And this was on the days when I didn't feel like I was depressed. I was down, I was sad, and there was no reason. Like, life was good, sex was good, my dog was good, my friend, work, everything was good. So it was one or the other. And I would call these like the beginning of my emotional valleys. So I wasn't averse to it. I'd been to a therapist, a counselor in Orlando, Dr. Mary Lidke. She's probably dead now, but she was very helpful. I don't know why I went. I don't know how she helped, but she did. In fact, so much so that when DJ Jake called me and said, hey, can I talk to somebody? She helped him too. So now we're in the summer of 2005, and again, I decided to go back to a counselor. These emotional valleys had become too much. I explained to her what was going on. She saw I was a creative type, intelligent, and I'm thankful to have those two traits thanks to all this up here and what was going on. But I expressed like low energy, anxiety. I didn't want to socialize. If I did, and to this day, my friends who are in the room can attest to this, I would be hesitant to make plans because when time would come to do the plans, well, Eric wouldn't exactly be there. Or if he would, he'd only be there for 10 minutes and then gone. The other thing that anybody who has suffered from any kind of depression can sympathize with, I didn't want to get out of bed. I had to, though. We have to get out of bed. When I did get out of bed, I counted the minutes and seconds to getting back into bed. Not because my bed was safe, but because I could go to sleep. And for 6, 7, 8 hours, this mysterious melancholy was not anything I was thinking about. She digested all this and said, okay, I got this. Bipolar 2, before the happy emoji even came around. I was completely elated. I was sitting down like this, and then I literally got up and cheered. It's like I won the Super Bowl. Pour the damn Gatorade on me. And she's like, well, that's not exactly the reaction I get when I tell somebody they've got a mental illness. I said, you've never met me before. I was truly elated. This was the best day of my life, and it still is, because I, being endlessly curious, knew who the enemy was. I put my Sun Tzu Art of War hat on that I made at home, and I said, I'm going to do whatever I know how to do besides going to therapy to beat this foe. Books. You can laugh if you want. Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Dummies. I went and bought this book. And this other one right here, this Feeling Good Handbook, it is what I call my psychology Bible. It's the best piece of this I've ever read. And both of these books and more offered me some very easy to digest, practical, applicable things that I was almost immediately able to improve what was going on with me. I didn't care the social cost. I felt like shit. And I didn't know why, but I knew why. I just wanted to feel better. Some of these books and others taught me certain techniques like, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, this doesn't get me anxious. I enjoy doing this. But what's the worst that can happen if you came up here and if I called you up here to talk right now? They boo you off? Nothing. Flooding and immersion, good for anxiety or things you're scared of because they're often irrational. Immerse yourself. Flood yourself with what you're afraid of. And once you see that it's irrational and sit through it, sweat it out, you'll see it was irrational. It will have gone away. The last one, fortune telling. We all do this, especially if there's something not right up here where the chemicals are wrong, like with me. We predict what we think will happen. It's usually bad. The other thing that we do is we think we know how we will react to bad situations. 2 years ago, if you would have told me I was going to get fired and I'd probably be 3 sideways to Saturday, not knowing what I was going to do with myself. Well, guess what? I got fired, and I'm up here right now. These very applicable techniques helped me immensely. Look at it this way. If I were to fall off the stage right now, that would be embarrassing. I'd probably be hurt, too. But if you strained something, if you think you broke something, if you've got a cough, whoever that was, not calling you out, but if it gets real phlegmy, we're unfortunately conditioned to haul ass to the... First, we're going to post about it on Facebook. Then we're going to haul ass to the doctor, and we're maybe even going to go to urgent care 24/7 because now, especially here where we live, I can get to an urgent care faster than I can find a Starbucks, and that's saying something. Why why do we address that so quickly, but not what's up here? Because of stigma, of course. And usually what's up here shrouds our judgment and obfuscates our happiness. I'm the 1 in 5 I mentioned, but there's a lot of dark times where I inch closer to the 1 in 25, the severe stuff. I'll tell you about a time I was living and working in Allentown. Again, job's going really well. I was an hour from home, originally from Philadelphia, and I'm driving on a highway called 22. I called my dad. I was in one of these emotional valleys. So my dad knew where I was on the other end of the phone. And I felt helpless. I wanted to escape. I was exasperated feeling like this. And I said to my dad, Dad, I don't care right now if my car careened into the median. I want this to end. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Had I jerked the wheel, there would have been silence on my end of the phone. And from that moment forward, I resolved, no matter how bleak things were, I couldn't go through with that. 90% of suicides are connected, and if suicide bothers you, I suggest you leave right now because I'm going to say some pretty challenging things to what you think about this. 90% of suicides are connected to mental health. The other 10%, I like to say you owe little Tony a lot of money. I'm working on that joke, I swear. I'm working on that one. All right, so go back to the 90-10 thing. Healthy-minded people, when everything is working right up here, don't get out of bed, enjoy a day like this, go to the gym, come home and go, you know what? I'm going to blow my fucking brains out today. That's the disease. That's the illness talking. Like I said, have resolved never to do that, although I have had suicidal thoughts, and I immediately think back to my dad. I've wanted to escape this darkness before. Thankfully, I haven't gone through with it. I don't know where I think I go. I'm not a religious person. Maybe where I would go is worse. I don't know. I'm here, so I haven't been there. I know that you don't come back. The emotional shrapnel that flies from committing that act is unconscionable. The emotional collateral damage that you cause from that selfish act to escape whatever it is unthinkable. But we don't talk about this stuff. You don't talk about it. I do. It's stigmatized for most people. We're not where we need to be. We're not in pre-Freudian times anymore. We're not in the 1950s. There is no vehicle outside that's going to say, Eric, you got to come with us. Back in the straitjacket. I'm not going back to any asylum. And yes, the shirt, I didn't dress up because of the meaning here, the duality of this all. I'm not going back to an asylum. We don't call them that anymore. I'm not going to be institutionalized. No one's going to take me after this and cut my skull open and take out parts of my brain. We don't do that anymore. All these words right here, if I were to go to a psychological professional, a counselor, for the very first time and sat down and explained all the things I'm telling you guys, they're not going to say I'm a psycho or mad or a weirdo, crazy, a lunatic. None of those words are going to get used. I do my best to take them out of my daily lexicon, especially in this context. Let's do a little exercise. What's the worst that could happen from a couple of minutes ago? If you, maybe inspired by me here today or someone else who talks about this stuff, you want to talk to a friend about some depressive feelings, maybe some dark ones. One of two things is likely to happen. They're either going to say, what can I do to get you some help? I've heard about free resources like NAMI. We're going to get you there right away. Or they're going to say, you're crazy. Let's have a drink and we'll get over it. They're either not as close as you thought, or they're ignorant to where we're going with mental health and raising more and more awareness. I told you this isn't curable, but it damn sure is treatable. It's why I'm standing here today. The other bad news is it's often progressive. As it gets stronger, you have to get stronger. Just like we work out at the gym to get stronger or faster, we got to work out up here. We got to get more educated. We got to follow the science. The imaging is getting better so we can better diagnose these. Therapists, I've been to a lot of them. The one I have right now is absolutely incredible. You might not click with the first or second one, but the right one is out there when you decide to seek the help or help for that person. Employers, ask about EAP programs. Employee assistance programs. They give you like 3, 5, 7 confidential visits, obviously, free visits, so you can find the right person. I like to relate counselors and therapy to dating. You date a lot of different people before you find that person that you're going to spend a long time with, because they understand how you think, how you talk. Maybe you connect better with someone of the opposite sex or the same sex. Medications. This has been the most trying part of all of this for me, because the side effects, you've heard and read all about them. One medication that I thought was working, it lifted my depression, but in the middle of the day I was sedated, so I was depressed from wanting to go to bed at 8 o'clock. Different dosages, experimentation, what works, combinations. It's challenging. I'm not going to lie to you about that. It's tough. In fact, right now what I'm on is Cymbalta. I was on Wellbutrin for a very long time. I didn't know that Cymbalta, which was suggested to me by a friend for some chronic pain, was going to work better. I just stumbled onto it. Not only has it squashed my depression, but it has completely quelled any of my anxiety as well, and I stumbled onto it. So, stick with it. I assure you, the daily struggle will be less of one. My dogs are my therapy. The gym is my therapy. Doing this is my therapy. I've got to know my triggers, like stress, which we can't avoid. I've got to watch out for the cloud. But the triggers, one is alcohol. Don't let this stop you from drinking here today and have a good time. I've got to limit my alcohol, which is difficult because I like to drink, for two reasons. One, it's a depressant. Two, it inhibits my medication ability to do what it's supposed to do. It fuels that cloud. That cloud gets bigger and stronger when I ask myself some existential questions about life, like maybe I shouldn't be doing radio or Facebook Live from my living room. Maybe I should go home and live with my dad in Philadelphia. Maybe I should say, F you to the hurricanes, I'm going to live in the tropics. The more outlandish those questions get, the bigger that cloud is. That cloud is not filled with rain or nudes or dick pics. A couple of dick pics. It's filled with havoc-wreaking depression. So how do I fight it off? How do I move it away from me? Get back into a routine. Get your ass up and go to the gym. Take the dogs for a longer walk. If it's really serious, go see your therapist. Maybe your medications need to be changed. It says, stay in bed. It says, don't socialize. It says, have a couple more drinks. I've got to do the opposite of what it's telling me to do so that I can shrink it and push it away for one more day. I know we were talking superheroes earlier with Alex's stuff. I wish I was a superhero. I mean, it's a good job, good hours. They're usually rich. I'm down with wearing a cape and a costume. You get pretty girls. You get to beat up bad guys. There's really very little bad stuff about it. I don't have a single traditional superpower, but I can stand up here and talk about mental health without stigma. And you can talk about mental health without stigma as well. It is cathartic. It is medicinal. I've told you how my mind has concocted some insidious and I thought fatal diseases. I have shunned responsibilities and jobs and friends and relationships. I have thought about what the world, my dad, and my dogs would be like without me in it. But I'm still here because I've armed myself with everything that I've talked about. The free resources like NAMI, your counselors, your EAP. Buy a dog. You could do the same. As we wrap up here, do me a couple of favors. In those darkest hours, know that you're not alone. There's millions of us, there's millions of me. But to end, in those dark and hopeless and helpless of times, remember those two key root words, help and hope. They're there for you. I'm happy to have been as well, and thank you.